Hello and welcome. I am Deji Badimasi. President Bola Tinubu has taken a decisive action to reduce the cost of governance by slashing the number of people to accompany him and other senior government officials on both local and foreign trips by 60%. Presidential spokesperson Ajuri Ngelale, who made this known on Tuesday while briefing newsmen at the State House Abuja, says the directive applies for both domestic and international events. Here is Ngelale now giving the breakdown of how things are going to be going forward.
The official trips that will be undertaken within the country, that is when Mr. President or the Vice President travels to any state within the country, the massive bills that accrued due to allowances and ESTA code for security detail coming from Abuja, going and traveling into those states, will be massively cut due to the directive of the President that the security outfits within states, whether it be police, DSS, or branches of the military, will frontline his protective detail when he travels to those states, a major cost-cutting initiative. That will affect the office of the Vice President as well as the office of the First Lady. Additionally, when any international travel is being approved, the following limits have been placed on all ministers of the Federation. 4 members of their staff, appointees and the like, will be allowed to travel with a minister on an official trip. For heads of agency, that will be limited to 2 members of staff allowed to travel on an official trip. Furthermore, the numbers that the President has now approved for official travel with him that will apply to his principal staff are as follows. On international trips, the President has directed that no more than 20 individuals be allowed to travel with him. That number will be cut down to 5 in the case of the First Lady. 20 for the President, 5 for the First Lady. Additionally, the number in the entourage on official international trips for the Vice President will be cut to 5. In terms of local trips, the President has approved a new limit of 25 members of staff to accompany him on domestic trips within the country. The office of the First Lady is now limited to 10 staff members to accompany her on official trips within the country. The Vice President will be limited to 15 members of staff on official trips within the country, while his wife will be limited to 10 members of staff on official trips within the country, the same as the First Lady.
Now, to put this development into proper perspective, let's take a look at the 2024 budget for international travels. The allocation for international travels for State House headquarters is 6.3 billion naira. That's not all. International travel allocation for State House operations for the President is approximately 7 billion naira, while that of the Vice President has an allocation of about 1.2 billion. In all, that's almost 15 billion just for international travels for 2024 alone for the President and his Vice. So a 60% slash would mean a savings of about 7 to 8 billion naira. The move has been met with positive reviews, with many praising the President's commitment to cut down on unnecessary expenses and ensuring that public funds are used judiciously. Let's now discuss this further. Iniobong Usen, who is the head of Research and Policy Advisory Unit at Budgit, joins me now on the program. Ini, thank you very much for your time. Quite a significant cut, 60%. Help us to understand just how significant this is.
Yeah, thanks, DG, for having me, and Happy New Year to you. I mean, this is good news to the ears. It came a bit later than expected, but better late than never. This is sort of virtue signaling that we had expected that from day one, when the President took reins of office, that, that he made to show that we're not going to continue with business as usual. But we saw that events following that inauguration, proved otherwise. As you saw with the trip to COP28, that drew a lot of criticisms from the public. But we're happy to see that going into the new year and having a full sense of, what the fiscal space, what Nigeria's, fiscal capacity is at the moment, that government is making moves to, cut the cost of, governance. There's a lot more that contributes to that, but we're happy that these are very important first steps to take to signal that, we're willing to, save where, inefficiencies, where waste, has happened or has occurred in the past. And we're willing to redirect those funds to, other critical areas that are supposed to improve the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians.
And talking about those funds, we're looking at about between 7 and 8 billion naira here, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's just for the office of the president and that of the vice president. As you know, there are over 700 MDAs and GOEs of government. So we expect that if that is implemented across board, that there would be significant savings, from international travels.
And of course, let's not forget the ministers as well, whose travel budgets have now been cut down. Now, this applies to the federal government. There's also no doubt at all that even state governments are guilty of the same problem. You see state governors now travel and you see their convoy, you see the huge delegation that they travel with. I mean, the president cannot decree this on the state governments anyway, but you would expect that the state government should take a cue here.
Exactly. We expect that, the state governments will take a cue from the president with regards to, reducing this burden on states, on state finances, which are lean, at the moment. We also expect that the National Assembly, with regards to their principal officers would also take a cue, because these are executives that usually travel with very, very large delegations, when they are going to places, whether they are official visits or unofficial visits. And, this funded by state resources, by taxpayers' money, and in a lot of cases by borrowings, because if you look at Nigeria's fiscal reality at the moment, we're not raising enough revenues to fund, our expenditure. The deficit is widening. And, it's sad that, a large part of that borrowing goes to financing this, very luxurious lifestyle that we cannot afford at the moment. So we really hope that state governments will take a cue from the federal government as regards, the size of their delegations when they are traveling, out of state, and also moving, within the states. We see governors attend, functions, whether it's for the flagging off of projects or the commissioning of projects or the attending of even church programs, and you see the large delegation that accompanies, the governors to these events. And so we expect that, the state governors, take a cue from the president. And we would like to see this implemented across board, so that officials begin to see that from the top, right, that the chief executives are carrying on, with business in a different way. And then they can act accordingly.
And I'm happy you talked about the National Assembly there, because truth be told, sometimes you see the heads of the National Assembly, whether it's the Senate President or the Speaker, each time they travel, you see them travel. Sometimes their delegation is actually even bigger than that of the President. So it will be a good idea to hear them make pronouncements along this line, no doubt.
Very important, very important. And I mean, if you look at, apart from the cost of accommodating this delegation, with the cars, with the new cost of petrol, having to fill up those tanks,
and flight
SUVs
tickets,
and all of
that.
That puts a huge burden on the finances of in this case, if you are speaking to the with regards to whether the Senate or the House of Reps, on a huge burden on the federal government. As you have seen, with the 2024 budget, the National Assembly budget is over 300 billion naira. That's minus the 100 billion naira that has also been allocated to zonal intervention projects. These are huge funds. If you compare, these funds to what states, raise in terms of whether it's FAC or IGR on a yearly basis, it's not much.
The president has made a pronouncement, and of course, we heard the spokesperson of the president when he was asked how this was going to be implemented and what would happen if anyone flouted the directive. And he said, look, anyone who wants to do that should test the resolve of the president. But let's face it, implementation is also key. And you begin to wonder if, how this will be implemented. Because there's a possibility, even within, when you talk about local travels now, there's a possibility that you could have some government officials flout this rule. So for you, what do you expect to see put in place now in terms of implementation and monitoring?
In order for effective implementation of this directive, I would expect that it would start from the budget. So all the MDAs of government as ministries, department, agencies, parastatals of government, and the government-owned enterprises had drawn up budgets for their international travels.
That's true.
So we're expecting that, with the enacted budget, that the budget office would, in line with this directive, right, in actual figures, values, cut down what those what the cost for international travels should be, and now benchmark what the actuals would be against what the new budgets in line with this directive should be. So that at the end of the day, they are able to monitor if these MDAs or GOEs had gone above, the new approved budgets for international travels. So that monitoring and evaluation would come from the budget office, because that's where we have the aggregate figures for what the projections in terms of international travels would be. And once those figures are out, we should be able to tell, maybe quarterly, by the middle of the year or by the end of the year, if the actual cost incurred on international travels, aligned with what the new budget with regards to this presidential directive was. It's only then that we'll be able to say for certain that this directive, was fully implemented.
Iniobong Usen, Head Research and Policy Advisory Unit at Budgit. Thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks, Deji, for having me, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a short break now, but when we come back, we'll be discussing party politics, this time the PDP politics. Stay with us, don't go away.